Albert Einstein once said, "Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions." My understanding of this quote is what we imagine today could become a reality tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and my fellow peers, I wish you all a wonderful day. Let me start off by asking you all a question. How did we get here? How did we go from hunting animals with bows and arrows to landing on the south pole of the moon? To having conferences like this, where even students like me can give talks to very senior people. One word: Imaginovation. Sounds like something I just made up, but it's something far greater, something far more important. To me, imagination, simply put, is reimagining something that already exists, something that is already there, and based on that reimagination, innovating it to make it even better. It is the combination of two of the most powerful abilities that we as humans possess, those being imagination and innovation. In order to understand imagination even further, let's take a look at a few examples. Jelly drops. Never heard of them, have you? Well then, let me tell you the story. So one day, an old grandmother by the name Pattinson, who was suffering from the disease dementia, was rushed to a hospital for severe dehydration. Louis Hornby, Pattinson's grandson, was shocked, devastated to see how such a minute thing, like not drinking enough water, could have such a drastic consequence. He also noticed this was a problem faced not only by his grandmother, but also by hundreds of thousands of people like her. Did you know? A study once showed 50% of elderly people die due to dehydration every year. They die due to not consuming enough water. So, in order to help people like his grandmother, he came up with a solution: jelly drops. They're a soft, sweet, colorful candy made with 95% water with added electrolytes and vitamins, which can help hydrate and energize the elderly. They're also vegan and sugar free, which makes it safe for all people to consume. Lewis has used his imagination to reimagine a way for people with diseases like dementia or Alzheimer's, or people who are very senior, to consume water in a more fun and colorful way. And then he used his engineering skills to innovate the food or candy making technologies to include so many of these good things, which is quite the contrast compared to the candy most of us are used to today. The second example is something more impactful, something that has changed all of our lives, something that I'm sure most of you are either carrying in your bags or your pockets: the phone. We all know the phone started as the telephone made by Alexander Graham Bell. But what happened after that? Well, Martin Cooper came along and reimagined the phone when he made the world's first mobile phone. This meant not only could we talk to people whenever we wanted, but also wherever we wanted. But the phone didn't stop there. It evolved even further when Frank Canova added a screen to that when he made the SBI Simon, the world's first smartphone, the precursor to the iPhone we all know and love today. But we're still not at the modern phone yet. Why is that? That's because people have continued to use their imagination to reimagine and re-innovate that same phone. If you take a phone from today and compare it with a phone from 5 years ago, you will immediately notice all the major differences that have been made. What have these differences done? They have improved our daily lives. That is what I believe to be one of the greatest powers of imagination. It can help us be more efficient in our work and increase and improve our day-to-day lives. Now, I'm pretty sure all of you have a good idea on what imagination is. So tell me, without imagination, where would you be? How would life be without imagination? Well, for one, there would be no modes for communication or transportation. Imagine not being able to talk to your long lost friend who's gone to a different country or school for studies. Imagine not being able to drive to your favorite restaurant and eat your favorite dish. Imagine not being able to drive to your grandmother's house for a long weekend. None of those things would be possible without imagination. There would be no cars, no planes, no phones, no TVs. None of the luxuries that we all enjoy so much today would be possible if not for imagination. The best entertainment you could possibly have is a theater. And by theater, I mean the types of theaters Shakespeare used to write. You know what? Perhaps you wouldn't even have that. Perhaps the person who made those based it off something else. So, were it not for his imagination, even those kinds of theaters wouldn't exist, and we wouldn't have the blockbusters we have today. Now, the thing about imagination that is my favorite part about it is the fact that anyone can use it. Anyone can reimagine something that's already there and innovate it to make it even better. So here's where the link from the intro of me came. So the main reason I listen in my computer science classes is because I want to base my job off of that. So one day my computer science teacher told me of a student who's going through an MIT exam where he had to create an app. The issue that was going around India at that time was in the farmer to consumer buying procedures, the middlemen in those procedures had far too much power and often exploited it. So what his app did was it allowed the farmers and the consumers to directly communicate with each other, removing the need of a middleman. Now here's something that I would like to imagine: the umbrella. You see, there are two things that are always found inconvenient about this otherwise amazing invention. One is that I always have to predict when and when not to bring it. Because if I bring it and don't use it, it's a waste of time and a waste of effort that I put in to bring it in the first place. The second inconvenience is that it always takes up at least one hand. Being a hard-working student, I rarely find both my hands free. I'm usually always carrying something that I need for school on that day. The situation was even worse last year when I was home lunch student, which meant I brought my lunch bag to school every day. On top of that, I play badminton. So on some very fine days, I would bring, say, my laptop bag, my lunch bag, and my racket on that same day, which it was fine. It was manageable. It wasn't such a big inconvenience for me. But tell me, where do you find an umbrella and all that? That is why I imagine that the umbrella should be an attachment to my backpack in such a way where either with a pull of a rope or the push of a button, I can open and close the umbrella. You see, this is how you can imagine it. That power belongs to all of us. I'm sure all of you, at least in one point of your lives, have looked at something and thought, what if it was like this instead? How many of you looked at something and thought like that? Raise your hands. You wanted to change something about the thing you looked at and it made some inconvenience for you, right? That's what I thought when I made this part about the umbrella. So now, the next time you have a thought like that again, I want you to observe it. I want you to observe your own imagination. That is how Imaginovation begins. That is how it began for all the people I've mentioned in this talk. That was their first step, and it can be yours too. Now, the second step is for you to think of ways to implement your ideas, to brainstorm, see if it can actually help someone. Even if that's you, that's not a problem. And the final and third step is to do it. If it is a good improvement on something old, then I'm sure you can change people's lives just like Louis Hornby or Frank Canova. Now, keep in mind that all the great inventors that you hear about so much today were once ordinary people like you and me. The only difference is between us and them is what we decide to do with it. So, in order to sum up this, my talk and this TEDx, I would like all of you to take away this. Remember, you have the power of imagination and you can do something with it. Thank you.